So, you want to read The Lord of the Rings, but you want to make sure you have all your dwarves in a row before you set off on such an epic adventure. Worry not, friends. I'm here to shed light on your path and show you the way through one of the greatest literary adventures of our time. So whether you're an avid reader looking to sink your teeth into a new tale, a lover of modern fantasy like Game of Thrones or Harry Potter, or a fan of the films curious about the source material, I'm here to help. Lend me your ears for just a few moments and I'll send you off to Mordor in the right direction. I'll even tell you where to go after the quest of Frodo Baggins is at an end. Come, gather around the fireside because I'm about to show you the best reading list for all of the books in the Middle-earth saga. Now, before you jump hairy hobbit feet first into the Fellowship of the Ring, let's take a moment to talk about the humble little story that started it all, The Hobbit. The Hobbit was the first book published in the world of Middle-earth, and is my favorite out of all of the Tolkien books. The Hobbit is a fun and fantastic adventure and is actually quite important to the story of The Lord of the Rings, especially in the first chapters. This little 300-page adventure is also a good test of your taste if you aren't sure about reading all 1,000 plus pages of The Lord of the Rings. So go ahead, read The Hobbit first, and you will quickly find out if you like Tolkien's style. If you don't, it's a small tale and it won't take that long to finish if you just want to stop there. But if you find you like what you're reading and can't wait for more, you have the whole of The Lord of the Rings right around the corner. Now for the meat of the tale, The Lord of the Rings. The order is actually very simple, just like the movies. Fellowship of the Ring first, then The Two Towers, and finally, The Return of the King. The series actually needs very little explanation, so just grab yourself a copy of each and get ready for a fantastic time. But hold on, what about after The Lord of the Rings? Is that the end of the story, or does Middle-earth have even more to discover? Well, buckle up, because we have no less than 4 more books to explore, all of them written by Tolkien himself and published after his death by his son, Christopher Tolkien. Keep in mind that none of these books are quite as finished or complete as The Lord of the Rings, or even really The Hobbit, but they all tell grand tales from the history of Middle-earth and shed light on how the world we see in The Lord of the Rings came to be. The first of these extended tales can actually be found in the back of The Return of the King in the form of the appendices. These chapters tell various tales directly related to the history and stories surrounding The Lord of the Rings. In them, we get the history of Gondor, the love story between Aragorn and Arwen, and the history of Rohan and the dwarves. You can also find timelines, family trees, and even writings on how the different languages work and how to pronounce the names. If you want more Middle-earth, the appendices are the very best place to start. Now, for the next stage of your journey, you will need 4 books: The Silmarillion, Beren and Luthien, The Children of Hurin, and Unfinished Tales. The Silmarillion contains the vast history of Middle-earth, starting from before its very creation and running all the way through the 3 ages of the world and finally ending back at Return of the King. It is an epic and fantastic tale that sheds so much light on the world of Middle-earth that I was amazed at just how many of my questions it answered. Although it definitely isn't as complete or well written as The Lord of the Rings, all of its tales are epic in scale, and together they shape the world in which we eventually meet our hobbits. Sometimes it can feel a bit like a textbook, and to others like an ancient epic poem, or anything in between really, but it is unquestionably the ultimate story for anyone wanting more Middle-earth. The next 2 books are standalone tales that are actually briefly told in the Silmarillion, but were later fully fleshed out and published as their own works. First is Beren and Luthien, which is the tale of the first elf and human to fall in love, and their adventures together. If you want to read these stories in chronological order, then read this one alongside its chapter in the Silmarillion entitled Of Beren and Luthien. The next book is The Children of Hurin, which corresponds to the chapter of Turin Turambar in the Silmarillion. It tells the tale of Turin and his sister Ninor as they deal with the curse of a dragon set on their family by Morgoth himself. It is possibly the single darkest story for Middle-earth, and is one of my personal favorites. Finally, we come to Unfinished Tales. And yes, that is the name of the whole book. Unfinished Tales, like the Silmarillion, is a collection of stories from the history of Middle-earth. Unlike the Silmarillion, however, it is not one complete story, but is instead a collection of many stories from across Middle-earth's history, and they are all, like the title suggests, unfinished. That's why I suggest reading it last, because it needs the most context from other books to be fully understood and appreciated. It is chock full of interesting tales and is the only book to really explore things like the nature of the 5 wizards and the lost seeing stones. After you have read these books, the story of Middle-earth is about as complete as it ever will be. Tolkien, of course, wrote other books, and there is always the 12-volume analysis of Tolkien's writings called The History of Middle-earth. I'll leave a link in the description to a complete list of the books for anyone who just can't get enough. Oh, and one quick note. If you do plan on listening to the audiobook versions of any of these stories, make sure you find an unabridged version. There are several radio show versions out there that are not direct readings of the books and make for an entirely different experience. So, now that you know the way, grab yourself a hot cup of tea, snuggle up in the corner, and let one of the greatest fantasies of the modern age sweep you off your feet. Thanks again to everyone for joining me. I hope you found this video informative, and if you did, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And please, don't forget to subscribe for more Tolkien-fueled adventures. Until next time, my friends, farewell and fare free.